I want to just start by saying that I do not, I love mentoring people, and I help mentor people by not giving them conventional wisdom, which the conventional wisdom says you should do. I give people unconventional wisdom. Because if you want to do something worthwhile in your life, you can't be conventional. If you do something conventional, it's just the same old things over and over again. So Silicon Valley is something where a lot of magic has happened over the last several decades. All over the world, people have wanted to copy Silicon Valley to recreate that magic. They do that by copying what they believe are Silicon Valley buildings. And then some people who want to be venture capitalist investors invest, they put a lot of money into building these Silicon Valley-like buildings. And they think that by doing this, that magic will magically happen. It doesn't work that way. Silicon Valley wasn't created, it happened organically. And it happened organically because there were a lot of very strange, weird people in San Francisco, a place where there's been a lot of very strange, weird people for many, many, many decades. San Francisco has a culture where it's totally encouraged to be very strange and unique, to be yourself, not to be conventional. These people come together in community and make all sorts of amazingly cool things happen. This doesn't happen because they're being conventional. It happens because they're being their own unique selves. They come together in community and encourage each other to explore what is worthwhile in each person. For instance, back in the early, in the 1970s to the late 1970s, a bunch of computer geeks got together, very strange, introverted, geeky people. They came together because they thought computers shouldn't be just these huge things that takes a large building with air conditioning and a lot of vacuum tubes. They wanted small computers that anyone could have. No one could do it on their own, but together in community, they figured out many ways to make this happen. They formed a homebrew computer club, out of which many, many computer companies grew, and that's what became Silicon Valley over the years, including one of the biggest corporations on the planet, the Apple Corporation. So with that, I want to just say a bit about me personally, because I think that relates to what I really want to talk about, which is hacking in China and creating, presenting the hacker mindset, the maker mindset, which is, I think, really, really important if we're going to grow an economy here in China or anywhere in the world. But we're here in China. We want to grow here in China an economy that is vibrant and healthy and perfect for this country and the people here. I do love my job. Most people in the world do not like their jobs. When people do not like their jobs, they don't create anything very worthwhile for themselves. If they don't create anything worthwhile for themselves, they're not really creating anything worthwhile for the people around them. If people are doing things they really find meaning in doing, things that they find exciting to do, they're doing themselves a service, they're making their life better, they're making the lives of those around them better, and then the world gets better. If people are doing that, we can create here in China, each and every person in China who's doing this can create things that are really good for themselves and really good for the local economies, and if it resonates with a broader community, really good for China. It's the only way that a Chinese economy is going to grow, is if people find projects they find exciting, they find meaning in doing, And in so doing, other people will find meaning and pay them to do it. This is how innovation happens. Real innovation, not just a marketing buzzword, but actual innovation. So using myself as an example, I just want to get a bit personal here. When I was a little kid, I was very depressed. I was beaten up by bullies every day, and often a gym teacher would watch as the bullies beat me up for being bad at sports and being gay and being introverted and geeky and being intelligent. In my country, being intelligent is not supposed to be a good thing. Here, it's different. We have more assets here. But when I got home, I tried to escape from my terrible life by watching television. While I watched television, all of my problems seemed to go away until the show ended. And then there was another show, so I could watch that. And then my problems seemed to go away until the show ended. But then there was another show, and I did that all day and all night. And that made it so that I did not get better at dealing with other kids, at dealing with bullies, at making my life better. I ate junk food, I got fat and unhealthy, so that made me more of a target for bullies, only to come home and escape from television again, and that's addiction. And I was a horrible TV addict. My childhood went away, my time went away, and it was really terrible. Eventually, though, I did learn to live a life I really loved. And it's a long story, and I'm happy to share that at another time, so please ask me if you're interested. But I did learn to live a life I love. I became a consultant, helping a lot of little companies with their computer projects, microcontroller projects, and I loved doing that. It was really cool. I got paid enough money in a short amount of time to live the rest of the year without working. I really liked that. But none of the projects were ones that I really loved. I did like helping all these other companies, but the projects I worked on weren't ones that I found totally exciting. They made me jump out of bed in the morning, excited to work on the problems of that project. So I actually quit doing that, and I had an experiment on myself, only accepting work if work came my way that I was super excited about, work that I loved. It didn't happen. So I started doing things that I did love, which was volunteer work and working on projects that I'd been thinking about for a long, long, long time, 10 years actually, but didn't actually play with because when I worked on electronics, I didn't have enough energy for electronics to actually play with electronics. But after quitting work, I saved up enough money, I could actually do this for a while. I was lucky enough. I did have time, so I played with projects. And one that really got exciting to me is this idea I had 10 years earlier in 1993 when TVs just were beginning to start popping up everywhere in public places. They were everywhere. Now it's way, 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 way worse. But back then, it was really strange to me that they were popping up everywhere in public places because people do not leave home to watch TV. They might watch TV at home, but I got rid of my TV at home because TV sucked my time away, and I quit. But when they started coming up everywhere in public places, I couldn't do anything about them. But I could figure out a way, because I'm a geek, to turn them all off, so I did. TVs, I don't like TV. I like turning them off. So I worked on TV Be Gone. That's the name of the project. It's this keychain that turns TVs off in public places. And it took me a year to make the first one. I did it because I loved it. I didn't do it to make money. I only did it because I wanted one. And when I finally got it going, I went all over San Francisco, turning TVs off everywhere and enjoying it a lot. And my friends, many of whom helped me do this, were also going around San Francisco, turning off TVs and enjoying it a lot. And I made one for all my friends so they could do that. And they showed their friends, and they liked it a lot. And the friends of my friends showed it to many of their friends, and many of them liked it. And that's when I saw an opportunity. this project that I did that had meaning for me personally, that I only made for me, suddenly seemed to be something that other people might want, and maybe I could make it into a product, and maybe even make money from it. I made as many as I could afford, which was 20,000 of them. That was a lot. But if I sold 5,000 of those, I figured it out, I could break even. I wouldn't lose money. And if I sold any more of those, like 15,000 left, that would be profit. And I thought, well, you know, it might take a few years to break even, but I was wrong. I sold them all 20,000 in 3 weeks. That was in 2004, and it's the only way I've made money ever since. Me and 12 people, all friends, we have made a living doing what we love for the last 12 years. And that got me super famous. I didn't set out to be famous. It was very stressful being called constantly all day and being in People magazine of all things. I don't know, do you get People magazine out here? It's not something I ever thought I would be in. But, and I was on pretty much every TV station in the world. The manufacturer that I used is in China, in Shanghai actually. And they were totally thrilled when I was #1 Chinese Yahoo story for 3 days in a row. You know, I was on China CCTV and whatever, for making something that turns TV off. I'm on TV. But my definition of success grows from this. Do what you love. If you get enough doing what you really love doing, to keep doing what you love doing, that's success. So by doing this, I got invited to my first hacker conference, which I fell in love with. I started helping with hacker conferences and maker fairs, just much like this one, and we grew out of that. It brought me to my third hacker conference, which I really loved, which had a talk about how to start hackerspaces, from which I started NoiseBridge, one of the early hackerspaces, and that it became an example for others. I started teaching. Hackerspaces started growing all over the world. I started teaching at them, so I started traveling all over the world, giving talks, giving workshops, even giving this TED talk. And here I am teaching soldering like I was yesterday at the DF Robot booth. And I go to China every year to visit my manufacturer. I start giving talks here, and of course I talk about hackerspaces, about doing things that are exciting. And now all over China, people actually say hackerspace, hacker, maker. All these things are spreading because of me and other people talking about this. It eventually gets its way up to the premier of the country who visits a hackerspace in Shenzhen, Chaihua. And now every bureaucrat in China needs to start a hackerspace, or so they think, but they don't know what they are. And I will show a bit about that later. But that's why we are all here today, because of all of this process. Maker Carnival exists because of all the groundwork that a bunch of us did way back in 2007. But I want to present about hackerspaces, which is really about community. It's really about community, just like the Homebrew Computer Club community of geeks back in Silicon Valley. That's where the magic happens, and that's where we can grow unique community so that people here in China can come up with their own unique projects that are good for each individual who makes them, which is good for the communities here in China, so that local economy can grow here in China. So let me just show you a few pictures about hackerspaces and what they look like. These people are happy. All they're doing is learning to solder. It doesn't matter that they're soldering. It's just like here. Yesterday, 100 people in an hour learned to solder by making blinky lights. Anywhere from little kids up to big people, really old people, older than me. And they were all happy like this because they're learning to do something they didn't think they could do. They don't have to go off and solder again, but maybe they will. Maybe it'll change their life, who knows? But it will bring the confidence they gained in learning to do that into the rest of their life so they can do whatever they do. There are a lot of tools at hackerspaces. Because when community comes together, they want to make things, they want to try things, they want to see how things work and not work and fail and learn from what doesn't work and then try things, eventually doing things that do work and exploring and trying things until they find things they really love doing. And when they do, there are resources to learn more of what they don't know to make their projects incredibly cool. That's why hackerspaces are such fantastic learning environments and why they've been growing so quickly. Many people have found things that other people like, and then they have an opportunity for themselves and they can start small companies and make a living doing what they find meaning in doing, what they love. But let me just talk about what hacking is as I see it. So I say hacking and hackerspace instead of making and makerspace because it's not about just making a thing. It's about a mindset, a way of looking at the world, a way of living. And here's how I define hacking. It's different for different people, but I see it as the world is full of resources. The resources are available for anyone to use any way they like. We can use them even in ways they weren't intended for by the people who created those resources. We can use them any way we want. Then we can use those resources to make our projects cooler. And those projects can be just about anything. Whatever it is, we can make them cooler and we can share it. And overall, we're doing this because we enjoy doing it. This is what hacking is all about. And anything can be hacked. It really is a mindset, a way of living. It's also a key for entrepreneurship. Here in China, there's this erroneous equation between maker, hacker, and entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aren't hackers, but good ones are. Most entrepreneurs aren't good. Most entrepreneurs see the world out there and they think, how can I make money in that world? That is a really stupid way to start being an entrepreneur. It's a really stupid way to start a company. You don't start a company thinking, how do I make money? You start a company thinking, what do I want in my life that doesn't exist now? And if other people also want that, then you have an opportunity to start a company that has some probability of success. Because most companies, most startups, almost all of them fail. And they always will, almost all fail. It's only some percentage that will survive the first year, and only a small percentage of those that will last 5 years. So how do we make it so that we have a higher percentage that have some possibility of succeeding? It's because the person who started the company is excited about the idea that they have, that other people are excited about, that people will pay them for. So, what can be hacked? Anything. Computers and electronics, that's what we usually think of, but it's not just that. It's art and craft and science, ourselves. I hacked myself. That's how I became someone who loves living my life. We can hack our communities, the planet, we can hack our countries. Everything can and should be hacked because everything needs to be improved, and this is how we improve things. And from this process, we find opportunities. So let me just show you a few hackerspaces and their tools. It's not about the tools, it's about the tools people in the community want to do what they find exciting and meaningful and what they love. Here's one in Paris that does a lot of things with electronics. Here's one in London that does a lot of fabrication and a lot of art and craft and hand tools. At this one in Austin, Texas. At Noisebridge, we do pretty much everything, including painting, but a lot of people have created tech companies that they really enjoy and have made them a living for many years now. But it's an exciting place to be. Hundreds of people go through every week. We've got classes and workshops on just about any topic, including Mandarin Chinese classes. So here's one in Stuttgart, Germany, amongst other things. They teach cooking. Hackerspaces are really for anybody. Little people, big people, black people, white people, gay people, straight people, it doesn't matter. Anyone who comes and fits in with that community and explores and does, hopefully, eventually what they love. The community is there for encouraging that. And because of that, they're fantastic learning environments. When people find a project they really like, they're excited about it, they want to learn more about what they need in order to make their project as cool as possible, and now they're motivated to learn everything they need in order to make their projects cool, which is why a lot of schools are now incorporating Hackerspaces as part of their curriculum, because project-based learning is a fantastic motivator for learning. They're also fantastic for growing local economy because of what I've been saying. If people find a project they like, other people likely will like it as well, and people will pay them to do it, and there's a community. Some people will be entrepreneurial and can help the people with the idea to create a company with it, and people can make a living doing something way cool. So it really is all about exploring and doing what each person loves, and that's what the community there is for, supporting just that. And actual innovation does grow from that. And this is where things perfect for a certain spot in the world can happen. And just like Silicon Valley, it can grow big. It doesn't have to, though. All we need is lots and lots of teeny little companies that are sustainable. We don't need the next big thing. Like TV Be Gone does not sell well in China. People in China, actually all over Asia, it does not sell well in Asia. I didn't create it for Asia, I created it for me. But it turns out that I've sold over 500,000 of these around the world, including mostly North America and Europe. But it doesn't have to be for the whole world. It doesn't have to be for everyone. It's only 500,000 units. That's nothing compared to how many of these things go out in the world. But that's okay. It sustained me and 12 friends for 12 years, and who knows how long into the future. If there were millions and millions of companies along these lines in China, we would have an amazing economy here in China. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So in 2007, when I started NoiseBridge, there weren't all that many hackerspaces. And like I said, it grew out of this talk at an amazing event in Germany, a big hacker conference with lots of lights and lots of talks and lots of, spaceships. Of course, it didn't fly, but it's cool anyways. This started the hackerspace movement after NoiseBridge became successful and a few others, and within a year there were 100 more because of all the things I've been talking about. They feel great, we need community, we also need to create. Hackerspaces are perfect for that, but they're also fantastic learning environments, and they spread all over because of that, and also into schools, and they're fantastic for local economies, which is why they're being supported by local governments and national governments. So I was just in Belgium before coming to China. Here's a workshop I was giving there. Then I came actually from there to Japan, where I gave a workshop at Tokyo Hackerspace, where the big, huge network TV, NHK, showed us doing what we're doing. Again, being on TV for turning TVs off. Life is strange. So, but here in China, there's lots of them. I was just in Beijing. Here's Beijing Makerspace. There's also a new one, Tech Play for educational space for little kids up through teenagers. THU Makerspace, which is the Tsinghua University Hackerspace. Here's me giving a workshop. And it's just all over the place. There's thousands in the world now. And here's a map from hackerspaces.org. showing how many there are all over. That's actually an old map because China is now obliterated with pins as well. So there are opportunities here now because the premier visited Chaihua last year and people are starting hackerspaces and bureaucrats are really going just crazy building hackerspaces, but unfortunately they don't understand what hackerspaces are and they're building these. Does that look like a hackerspace? It looks like a nice place to do some work, but in order for these to not be empty like that, we need to have really cool ideas to start really cool companies so that they can fill that up by making their companies into a reality. And that won't happen unless we have hackerspaces and places like it where people can do that. We also need to start teaching people really educating people, not like this. This is taking tests in schools now, not just in China, but everywhere. People are only being trained to take tests. Tests are fine. If you like taking tests, take tests, but it doesn't prepare you for living your life. It doesn't prepare you for doing well in school. It doesn't prepare you for doing well in your job. It definitely isn't good preparing you for a lifetime of learning, which is what we all need in order to live our lives. It certainly isn't creating a sustainable economy. Hackerspaces are learning like this instead of like that. And it's fun and people are motivated. So that's why schools are incorporating them as part of their curriculum. And I was just at Tsinghua University as hacker in residence to help them incorporate these kind of things in their curriculum. And once it happens, it's contagious and it spreads. Again, they're only soldering, but look how happy they are. I only have a few minutes left, so I want to whip through this, but China has some serious problems ahead unless we start incorporating things like this. China now has mostly gotten in, it's worked really well. The economy here has grown super fast in a super short amount of time by Westerners making products here to ship halfway around the world, but those days are ending. The economy here has grown, so people are getting paid more, and they should get paid more. The exchange rates aren't so good because the Chinese economy is much better and the Western economies aren't. It's just costing more to do all of this, so it's not profitable for Western corporations to manufacture here to ship around the world. So if we don't start incorporating this, what's China going to do for their economy? I don't think this is the future of China. I think the future of China is people being supported in doing things they really love, starting all sorts of, hopefully millions and millions of little companies, some of which might grow, so that we have a vibrant economy, and this is an amazing opportunity. And this is why hackerspaces are being supported not only here in China, but everywhere in the world. And just say a brief thing about co-working spaces, like that big empty building I showed you, that's a co-working space. Once people have a cool idea, they need resources like a co-working space to run their company, so they're doing it with the support of other people in the community and not alone at home. There's also places like Incubator, Accelerator, kind of the same thing. Earlier speaker was talking about that. I'm a mentor at the first one called Hacks in Shenzhen, where people can be trained on how the specifics of running their own company, just trading a little bit of their stock, and then they get a little bit amount of money to start their company. So it's becoming part of these spaces. This is a way to create spaces like this, where people can start companies rather than spaces like this. Hackerspaces really are places where people can learn these things, and in order for it to work, we really, really need to do things in this order. Explore, try things, and fail. Hackerspaces are safe for trying things and failing, because we learn so much from failing, and then we learn, we try things, we fail again, some things work, some don't, we share with each other, we support each other, we find what works, what doesn't, we try things, they fail, we keep repeating that, and eventually we find things we really love doing, and we're supported in doing it. If other loves it, we have an opportunity, and then we have a possibility of a startup that might have some possibility of success. And if it grows, big success. But who knows until you try, and I think it's worth trying. It's really, really, really rewarding whether it works or not, because even if it doesn't work, you learn so much, and you can bring that forward in your life and do amazing things with it. So, yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to say. I just wanted, here's just a few projects at Hackerspaces that have made people a living. Very strange little companies, all the way through MakerBot, which is started from one person who was fascinated with 3D printers at NYC Resistor a few years ago. And within those few years, it grew to be almost $1 billion company, which was sold last year. And now lots of people are making a living with 3D printers around the world. Also, drones started with a whole bunch of hackers in Germany, and now thousands and thousands of people are making a living in drones, all because some German hackers thought it was really cool. One way to help this whole thing, I've been creating hacker in residence programs, and that's been happening a lot. Like I said, I was just doing it in Tsinghua. This started in 2013, a silly poster to kick off the whole thing 3 years ago, which was the last time I was here. So anyways, people from the outside can come in and show their thing and help people mentor, learn from what they do and go somewhere else. But as more and more people do that, like here in China, what I hope is that it won't be outsiders coming to China to share what they are doing, but more and more Chinese people doing things in their own unique, individual way, which they bring their Chinese upbringing with them, just like anywhere in the world. We're brought up with our culture. So people here can more and more be the hackers in residence to share from Beijing to Shanghai to Chengdu and whatever. So anyways, we need lots of these kind of opportunities for more people. There's only thousands of these spaces now, and we need more, and they are being built, and China is like the most amazing place where this is growing. And I would love to see these opportunities available for more people. So thanks, and here's my contact information again.